Well, hello and welcome to the Radical World Podcast. My name is Jose Leal, or as Christine knows how to pronounce it, José Leal. I'm Portuguese, and that's the way we pronounce it in Portuguese. But of course, I'm in California, and everybody's a Jose around here, so you can't pronounce it any other way. My guest today is Christine, and Christine is um, we turns out we have like 20 people in common on LinkedIn because we're sort of in the same space. Interestingly enough, we've been in the same space, kind of paralleling each other for decades now, which I thought was really, really cool. So I'd like to talk about that, Christine. First of all, welcome.
Thank
Uh,
you.
for joining us. You, based on your description here, speaker, author, coach, founder of Inner Work Matters. So you're not doing much. You're not busy, right?
Yeah, I'm not busy. I'm just enjoying my life and doing what I love.
So we need to go to the past because I lived in Toronto for 25 years, and looking at your background a little bit, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We were sort of on opposite sides of many media relations for a bunch of years there. When I was at Canoe, which was a Sun Media thing. I don't know if Canoe.ca means anything to any of
Yeah.
the new generation, but
Oh,
our generation, it meant something.
yeah, yeah.
And was kind of one of the early players in online at the time. And
Mhm.
so you were kind of doing some interesting work at that time. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I immigrated from Jakarta, Indonesia. I've been living here for almost 26 years now in Toronto. And I came in the right time in a way where the internet just started. So
Yeah.
I got into, at that point, like web design, coming from advertising agencies in Jakarta from Ogilvy, and then learning about web design, and then starting from there, and the interactive field changed so much from that. Experience the banner ad, the microsites. I don't know what some people who are in the industry for decades probably know that term, from like web 1.0 to 2.0 to mobile phones, smartphones, and web applications, and now AI. So experience those things is, and I think you probably experienced that too, right? Like the media changed because of the
Oh
technology.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And I was vice chair of the IAB for a period
Mm.
of time for I can't remember, maybe 3 or 4 years, and we were we had this huge argument for a period of time. Should we call ourselves the Interactive Advertising Bureau, right, or the Internet Advertising Bureau? So yeah, that space. I mean, you were working on the UX side, developing a lot of how do we present things and users work with things and so forth. And we were figuring out, what are the ads and the structures of the ads and how people engage with the ads, and we
Mhm.
measure ads and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really interesting time. Things were moving very, very, very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, definitely.
And
Yeah.
so we've both moved on and we're doing something very different. What led you to sort of move away from the UX work and the agency work that you were doing to the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, it's a very interesting process. I mean, even within when I work in interactive, like it was coming from the interface, user interface design. We just interface. It's like design, graphic designs, and then UX. Um, and then from agency, I moved into consulting, more like IT consultings with the interactive department, interactive consulting part of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, the reason why I love UX, because it's kind of learning about human experience. Like how do you make a change in the interface, in what people interact, so that things other people can do things easily, right? And it's intuitive. So it's a fundamental, impactful work that make people feel better or do things better. Learning about pain point, and I as I move my spiritual development, self development, and also trauma healing, um, I start to be more interested in what is it that create human transformative experience. So from how an interface, how human interact with interactively with source,
Mm-hmm.
to how is what create our experience. um, and I think there's something in me that wanting to do differently, but I was not there to do it. But the universe kind of bring me into a situation at work where it was so, that last year where I decided to leave, it's so toxic that allow me to question not just myself, but all my conditioning, and also to unlearn and find out this longing of how do we work together better? Like, what is it that can we be with one another and work together and collaboratively, without feeling like we are nobody, or without feeling that we need to be fit into a puzzle piece and force fit ourselves
Yeah.
into that. So I've been, and what is it about our experience and system experience, um, that basically lead me to what I'm doing right now.
It sounds like we had like the same epiphany, or very similar epiphany, because for me, I quit canoe and I quit the industry as a whole, and it was pretty much the same thing. It was sort of like, I'm burnt out. This whole industry is a shambles, but corporations are a shambles. Like the organizational structure is a shambles.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we collaborate? Not just work, because work has become sort of a negative term. Like like people don't want to work. If I don't have to work, why would I work? That kind of feeling, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, I work really hard so I can stop working, so I can retire, right?
yeah,
And it's like, that seems so wrong, because life itself is work, is an output of energy. That's what work originally meant,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we are outputting energy for things that are valuable to us, valuable to our families, valuable to our communities. But we've kind of decided that work isn't that. That
Mm-hmm.
work is this thing that we do for someone else, and we all hate it. And sometimes we like it, but most of the time we don't. It's like this really confusing space. And bringing that to, how do we collaborate and relate to one another and work with one another, is really what Radical World's been trying to work on for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
And your experience of sort of realizing, oh, I need to do it some other way, is really sort of rekindling in me the sense of, wow, I need to do something very different.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I love what you're saying. I think we are in the time, in the perfect time to question that, perfect time to make some change, because I think with the AI, with the technology, with the disruptions that we have to question what we're doing. And I think the most significant transformation for humanity extend beyond external technological advancements. I mean,
Yeah.
it lies in the re-evaluating how we relate to the world, to one another, to our bodies, and beyond. Like, it's it's and what I found, why is it? I think we also have an opportunity with AI to have AI do the work that we don't want to do.
Right.
It's human,
Right.
right? Because we need to kind of redefine what works for us, what work is, what jobs. Because, like, oh, I have to go for a job, and the basic fundamental during the revolution, the industrial technology is work is to pay bill.
Yes.
So work is related to how we survive in our societies. And therefore, we sell our soul, or I mean, not that's
Yes. Yes. Yes.
but we sell our time. We give
And
our
our
time
soul.
away. Yes, for what? For certainty, to pay our bill, for our survival. So therefore, we don't have a choice, right? We don't have a
Yeah.
choice not to work.
We went from, I like to say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I like to say that we went from slavery to jobs, because before slavery, there actually weren't jobs in the way we have jobs today. But once we had this idea that we can no longer really impose on people and just have them work, we need a system of work that actually demands of people in much the same way what we demanded of people before. Our organizations actually have the power to hire us, fire us, to tell us what we can and cannot do legally,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, in essence, is the powers that the slave owners had legally. And yet we don't have other areas outside of the workspace and government force. We don't have other places in our society where we can have those powers over one another.
Yes.
Our civil liberties end at the door when we get a job, because now the company has the power to decide what happens to us.
So that's why I think, and I know like a small group of people like you, for example, are working on this, because I think the workplace needs to be changed. Um, I know your organization will also talk about co-ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we give up our time, because for example, if I give up my time, the most productive time of the day, because you already paid my time, and if I don't want to do it, I cannot, because I already give that power away. So how can we, with AI development, have those things that need to be done, and then allow human to say, yes, I want to work on that, or I don't want to work on that, because I want to work on that base because I'm interested. I want to learn. I really enjoy it. And then the relationship with work will be changed, and
Yes.
we don't have to control or force people to do the work that they don't like,
Right.
because it comes from the options of, I really want to join you, to collaborate with you, because I have a shared meaning or shared value, shared objective with you, and therefore I'm bringing the whole self to it, right? And we don't have that option right now, because it's only one way, go up to your career, and that's the only path you go.
Right.
But there's no other way, and life is not like that. It's like, um, it's so mechanical, the way
Yes.
the way things work, and because of that, uh, organizations sometimes see human as mechanical. There's no recognitions of cycles. There's no recognitions of ups and down.
Yeah. Yeah. Of life's cycles. Right.
Yes, yes.
One of the things you described to me, I often describe what we do as the future of work, because that's a term that's out there. Um, and lately I've been thinking, it's not the future of work. This is the future of life,
Yeah.
right? We're working on the future of life. The future of work is to remove work as this thing that is an imposition on our lives.
Mm.
Yes, we need to actually make efforts to make good lives and have good livings and take care of our communities and so forth. But those things shouldn't be a drudgery. Those things are what we naturally are predisposed to when we see suffering in the world, from our children and our families and our neighborhoods and our communities. We want to serve,
Yes. Yeah.
right? But we can't. Well, I can't go give my time to the community. I can't help that homeless person because I have to go get a job.
Yeah.
And so work has become something we do that keeps us from living our lives.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. What I found interesting is I think there's systems, there's also our inner work.
Yes.
And the thing about what we stuck with work right now, and because we are stuck in, we only measure doing, right? Performance is doing. Um, we never really see about being. And
Yes.
you say about future of work, future of life, future of work is about doing work or doing less work, doing more work. Where future of life is about being and how. And I think one thing missing about work is like we don't the idea of looking at and really heavy in the head space because it's analytical, it's strategy, right? um, and what happened is it's abstraction. So with the way we analyze, the way we use our headspace, that is very heavy at work, is we become we have less capacity to measure things qualitatively. We only
Hmm.
measure things uh, like quantity,
Quantitatively. Yeah.
right? So like numbers. I
Yeah.
know what's 100 or 50% or 100%. But most of things that we do at work is beyond number. The qualities, like numbers, cannot really we cannot really measure by numbers the quality of collaboration, the quality of how I connect at work, the quality of my motivations or team motivations. There's so many things that because we our reliance to the headspace and our analytical nature, our intellect, um, we cannot sense that felt sense in a work. Therefore, we have a blind spot of noticing, sensing, and feeling the emergence in the moment because through that ideas of numbers, all we do is focusing on the outcome instead of the
Yeah.
process. So like, yeah,
And the direct outcome, right? Like it's not, we expect to measure X. So then we look at X and we see, did X make what we wanted? And all of the other stuff that got changed, we don't pay attention to. That's just collateral damage that we don't even know.
mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we made our numbers this year. We wanted to grow by 20%. We made our numbers this year. We also have a team that's really exhausted. We also have a team that's not feeling good about the work that they're doing because we've had to do things that we normally would not do. I mean, at Canoe, we did things that I'm not proud of because the numbers were the things that we were looking for,
Mm-hmm.
right? The keeping the big clients, not running the story or pulling the story because the big client called,
Yeah.
right? And said, "Hey, you guys, I'm paying you across all of your channels. I'm paying you $6 million. I don't think you should be running that story." Right? And having the CEO call me and say, "Pull the story." And having that battle between the editorial team and the author and trying to figure out a way to massage and make it viable. And the answers weren't good answers, but hey, we made the numbers,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's, we don't count that. We don't count the impact on me, the impact on everybody else in the organization who's seeing that happen and making those decisions of what we're selling, how we're selling it, and what we're publishing to the audience.
You know what you're saying? It's like this the very systematic, right? So me, individual, I'm selling my time to you so that, within 9 to 5, I cannot do anything else. I only can do the work you asked me to do. And
And
then,
if I catch you doing something else, boy, I tell you.
yeah, right. And then the company, the organization, somebody else buy your time or your resources So between that time or whatever money or whatever timeline, you only can do what I'm telling you to do, right? So it's like it's it's dominance and control.
Exactly. It's
Um,
a system of dominance and control using force to manipulate us.
Now, the reason why, I mean, I don't want to see this as, the evil, because I think we
No.
all involved in it, right? Individually and collectively. Um, it's how we use, and very strongly in our head, because I think therefore I am. Therefore, when I say something, then when I think about my analyticals and all this stuff that we use, it's so valuable to use that.
Mhm.
The more you strategic thinking and analytical thinking, you go to leadership. You go to
Right.
leadership role.
Yeah. Rational.
But there is a downside of that capacity, because it's a reductive.
Yes.
It's reductive. Um, Thinking is fragmented. It's intolerant to the unknown. Is rigid, is comparison based. The reductiveness, because again, like, it's number. So I'm focusing on that.
Right.
That's my goal. Then it's like, in a dark room you have a flashlight, very bright, and you only see one spot. And if that's the way you see things, everything's dark, you start forgetting that it's connected with other stuff, right?
Exactly.
So that's reductive. um, and also, it's it's intolerant with the unknown, and it's rigid, it's comparison based, because in order for you to know if it's good or bad, if it's efficient or not, you always need to compare. And the way we compare with our analytical way of thinking, or capacity, we have to compare. You cannot compare to the future, you compare to the past.
Comparison is judgment.
Yes, right? At the essence of it. So then you always have to judge, and you
Yes.
always use the past references. And therefore, right now, at this moment, we it just, this uncertainty is so frightening, because there is no comparison
Right.
with the future,
There's yeah.
right?
And I love what you're saying, because what I've come to realize is that the two sides of us, the intuitive side and the rational side, they emerged in us to work together, right? It isn't about one is right and the other one is wrong. That whole judgment piece that we this business of judging, I think, stems from this idea that we ourselves are flawed. And so we look to compare and to judge our pieces of ourselves. And so it's like, emotional is bad. Don't be emotional, right? We don't talk about your emotions. We don't want to know about your emotions. Don't bring your emotions to work, all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And then we put on top of that the rational, you just look at the numbers. Oh, we have to cut 700 people. Oh, well, 700 people, too bad, so sad. That's not nice, but the numbers are the numbers, and you focus on that. And the judgment isn't as to whether we're impacting so many lives, if the folks whose lives we're impacting would actually be able to provide a lot of value moving forward. It's just the numbers. And the numbers make sense. The collateral damage is just a sideshow that we don't pay attention to. And I think those two sides of us, as you nicely identified, is that we've focused so much on the benefits of being rational that we fail to see that there is many more benefits to the intuitive.
Yeah.
Right? That the intuitive, Kahneman, Daniel Kahneman, in his famous book, thinking fast and thinking slow, um, is recognizes that as much as the thinking slow bit is super valuable, we would not survive if there wasn't the thinking fast bit. The thinking fast is what actually operates us.
Mhm.
And so that's, I think, where I think the pendulum went one way
Yeah.
towards this rational is right, to this hopefully we don't overswing, because I think then there's the problem of, overswinging back and everything is about the, forget the rational.
Mhm.
But there is a balance point, and finding that balance is, I think, what these movements are about. And these movements are happening around all kinds of domains, not just the work domain. And they're all pushing back towards this more human balance
Yeah.
of, yeah, rational makes sense, but also intuitive makes sense. And how do we build systems that respect and honor both, not just one?
Yeah, I love what you say. I think we are in agreement of like we are swinging so much on the rational, and what happened with rational is um, because it's a way of labeling, right? Because
Yeah.
labeling give us control. If I can label you, can name things, I feel I'm in control because I understand it intellectually. So when we label things, um, we group things, categorize people in a certain
Mm-hmm.
way. What it means is we disconnected from it. We only connect with the label. So everything that we do right now in corporation and organization is not, there's no it's really about personal. Like, the CEO never know about people who, clean up the daily things. There's disconnection. Like, I'm not connecting with you as human, I'm connecting with you, only you as my worker, you are in my team. So that is easy for me to say, I'm going to cut you off because it's not according to my numbers. um, and with the era of AI, where those things we can get, like disconnections or like ideas, a lot of ideas we can get through AI, now we swing back into connection with human. And for me, this kind of era asked me about what does it means to be human. How can we be human in this AI world? And it's like, how can we access our different capacity? Like you said, we have intellectual, rational, we have intuitive, we have head space, we have heart space, and those are tools that we can access mm, anytime to use it for our collective good. So right now we're using only headspace to make sense of everything. But without that connection with our body to feel connection to what's going on, and connect with others, and understand the interconnected that comes from the heart space is able, like we're able to have more awareness of interconnection,
Yes.
relational, then it's hard to be in the unknown place. Because right now the head, um, what keeps us there is it cannot tolerate uncertainty,
Right.
right? Where now it's like, how can we be in a place where the known meet the unknown? And a lot of organization, because the way the system work, and a lot of people who are in it don't have that capacity to hold that unknown, because it's scary to not know. Everything we do, especially in our professional life, we can control, especially if you in the industry for like 10, 20 years, you know exactly what to do. Maybe a different, clients, but you have methodology, you have people, you have ways of working, you
Right.
sell that to other people. Like,
Right. You
client,
build a process and then you
yes,
stick to it.
yeah, right. And everything has to follow that without questioning. So this is a place where we need to unlearn that way of being in work, in organizations, um, and like you said about slow, slow and fast. We need to include time for reflection to slow down, because without reflection, without slowing down, we strategize, we do, and we keep doing. But how we can insert reflection, like collective reflection, where we go together and, like, instead of like getting answer right away, ask question.
Yeah.
Well, because the reason about being fast is, if we respond in a very fast way, what we do usually go from with habitual way of responding, right?
So I think there are two issues there. There's the way our brain works and the way we behave. And the way our brain works is, as Kahneman points out, is that we are calculating the world every millisecond of every day. Our bodies are trying to figure it all out. And as it does, it uses heuristics that are built over our lifetimes and built over our evolution to respond to a certain thing. If I were to come behind you right now and clap really loudly without you knowing, you would turn around faster than you can say hello. And that fast response wouldn't be you thinking. You would just turn around because that's the heuristics that life has provided us over the millennia. But when we talk about it and I say, there's going to be somebody clapping behind you, and don't turn around because you're in a podcast right now and you don't want to be turning around. And that slow thinking would override that. You kind of jerk a little bit, but you go, no, I shouldn't be turning around. I'm on the, and so that's the fast and slow of our bodies, because it takes more time for us to think logically than it does for us to respond intuitively or react, if you will. On the other side, what you're saying, I think is very, very true. Because we've got these systems of control, we end up going very quickly to the control and the rational processes and simply saying that becomes the new way of us behaving. Just as we turn around really fast because that's the habit we've built. We've built the habit of just saying, well, if somebody moved, the puzzle piece, we've got to go and move the next puzzle piece because that's the next piece and that's the next thing to do. And we don't think about it. We don't take the time to feel into, should I be moving that puzzle piece? Does that feel right? Is that the thing that we're intuitively here recognizing and appreciating? Because more often than not, if we do that, we break the pattern.
Yes.
And work and jobs and organizations today don't like us to break the pattern.
Yes.
And so that's the force. The force is sticking with this pattern that we've created, which is just follow the path and don't allow for life to get in the way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Jose, I know we don't have a lot of time, but I like to get into the hope.
Yeah.
Like, also maybe from your perspective, what would be, I don't like saying solution.
Yeah.
Problem solution. It's a very habitual things we say, problem, and how to
Yeah, exactly.
But like, how do we move forward? Yeah, maybe we talk about what's possible.
Yeah. I think that the work you're doing, the work we're doing, the work that so many people around this world are doing is not yet recognized as a movement. Right? It's recognized as weird people that stuck their heads out, aren't doing the traditional thing, and are like, why did you leave industry? You were making good money. Why did you leave? It's just sort of like that person's become a little weird. Right? Like that's what people observe in people like us, right? And they question, why was that happening? It's my belief that there's people like us in every transformation that's ever happened in the history of humanity that stick their necks out when everybody else is still going down over to the cliff, that the person ahead of them went over the cliff and they're just following and doing that. It takes people to stick their neck out to realize that we're going over to the cliff and to start directing things in another way. Not because we're smart, but because life itself forces us to do it. It keeps us from following that path. I don't know about you, but I had no physical control over stopping what I stopped and redirecting myself. It has not been an easy process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of us don't feel it's an easy process. I've talked to hundreds of people like us.
Yeah.
And every one of them, it's like, yeah, this is not easy. But what we're doing is doing what feels right. This is the thing we need to do. We feel this is our purpose in life. And that is what I think is being awoken in more people. And that those people will build the new patterns for the younger generation. That we give permission for the younger generation to not be just chasing the mainstream and actually doing different things. And those new patterns will replace the old patterns. Some folks are just going to go over the cliff. That's what they're doing. That's how they're doing it. That's what's going to happen. A lot of folks are going to go over the cliff. And that's just reality. That's been true with every other transformation we've had. The hope is that there's enough of us and that we come enough strongly together enough to build patterns that are valuable for the next generation to use, to improve, to make their own, that will prevent the future generations from even getting caught up in following the herd. That's my hope.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
No, it makes sense, and I felt the only way to go there is to get out from our parents' house. I feel like we come from family, like parentings and children, out from our parents to parents of organizations with types of dysfunctions, and the only way is to go out, like to feel that feeling of this is not right. And really to be brave in going down and do some inner work. And I just want to bring. I know we talk about relational intelligence, and I'm gonna bring a couple minutes here. Is how can we develop this relational intelligence where we can attune with the complex, the ever-changing flow of information within human connection, within conversations and relationships. And I think that's the way we don't have a right answer or solution to get there, but like being able to connect with one another with shared ideas, shared informations, shared intention, so that we can bring that together. And that's required relational intelligence because we are relational.
And we haven't said the words, but I
Yes.
think everything we've been talking about is relational intelligence.
Yes. Yeah.
The reason we left was because we didn't feel connected to what was happening there. Right. And the reason we're finding people like ourselves around the world is because there is this desire to make that relational connection, to build things with that relational connection, to design ways of being, to your point, very importantly, being that are relational in ways. So I think our whole conversation has been, though we haven't necessarily used that word as the way to frame it, because I think those senses in us, again, if we name it, we kind of start to define it as something, but I think they emerge and they are present in all of us. And some people are listening and some people aren't. We are reaching the end of our conversation. As Carlos likes to remind me, he is so good at doing that. Thank you, Carlos. Christine, I could talk to you for another hour, maybe two. This has been both eye-opening and reinforcing. I appreciate the fact that it was both. I'm looking forward to our one-on-one after this, because I think we see the world very much the same. And I think that you're part of the Radical World community, whether you know it or not. And that there's work to be done. And if we can help you do it and vice versa, then I think we should look at that. I'd like to announce W. Watson. He's the founder of Volk Co-op, and they're joining us next week. The co-op is one of the ones that I've wanted to talk to for a while, because they dedicate themselves to fostering collaboration and reducing fragmentation. Much of the stuff that we've just been talking about, and they're actually practically out there trying to do that. And so, how do we collaborate in a way that isn't about, as you said, Christine, breaking apart, splitting us, separating us, and then, of course, judging us. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation as well. But before we go, I just want to thank you again for this conversation, which I cherish. So I appreciate the time and your willingness to be strong and to do the things that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Joseph, for having me.
Thank you. Ciao.